morning, so I might try and do it without a microphone, but if you can't hear me, just let me know, and I can switch that one on over there. My name is Sally Dwyer. I have a company called Be Social, Be Smart, and basically we go into schools and universities, well we started with schools and universities, teaching students and young people how to leverage social media to build their online brand. So how we started was really, we were looking at how young people were using social media. Obviously, we all know the highs and lows of using social media for young people. And what we really discovered when we were researching the programs out there was that there was a lot of negative information for young people around the use of social media. It was all about what they shouldn't do online, the dangers of what they were doing online, and all of the stuff featured really heavily around privacy and safety. Those things are, of course, extremely important, but where we saw a real gap was to provide some education around how to use social media effectively, and if you do that, the opportunities that you can create for yourself career-wise, and also with your own business if you know how to leverage social media well. So a major part of that has been teaching young people how they can start to build their online presence and their online brand using the social media platforms that a lot of them are already using, so things like Facebook and Instagram, and then really introducing them to LinkedIn. From there, we started to get a lot of interest from teachers and educators and educational leaders that were starting to get interested in how they could build their online brand. I guess we did a lot of focus groups in the beginning of developing our teacher PD session, and what we found really interesting was a lot of teachers and educators felt like they didn't need to be online. Does anyone else feel, has anyone thought that they don't really need to have a presence on social media because of what they do? So really we started to look into that and just to see the ways and talk to principals, deputy principals in schools, those who are hiring within schools, and also a whole lot of other teachers, and talk about how they are actually using social media within their own professional world, but also in the classroom and with their students, and how we can really teach them to use it safely, because I know that there are some issues around, students trying to connect and things like that, but also really teaching them how to leverage it to either find new employment opportunities if they are looking to move on, or to develop networks with colleagues and other people in your education area, or as well to find collaborators and partners. Because increasingly, the world is becoming a very collaborative place, and a lot of people are finding opportunities to collaborate on platforms like LinkedIn. But the trick there, of course, is that you have to be on LinkedIn. So increasingly we found that teachers are looking to start building their profile on LinkedIn, but really, like a lot of people out there, they don't really know where to start. Just as a quick thing, who is here on LinkedIn? Okay. Of you who are on LinkedIn, do you just have a profile, or are you actively using LinkedIn, posting, connecting, engaging? Just have a profile? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to have a look at today, we're just going to have a little bit of a look around personal brand, but then we're going to go into the social media platforms, look at some educators who are using platforms well, and then really go through LinkedIn and really tell you about the things that you can do with LinkedIn, and what sort of information you should be putting in each section. So hopefully that will allow you to walk away and really start to use LinkedIn effectively. So online personal branding, what is it? Online personal branding is more or less a proactive projection of the parts of our reputation that we most want to be known for. So really it's an opportunity for us to really actively curate what people see of us professionally, in particular with LinkedIn, but also those things that we want people to see on other platforms. There's of course always the opportunity to have private accounts and public accounts, and that's something that you can decide, but really it's an opportunity to shape what people see. Why do we want to do that? By consciously curating your online personal brand, you have the opportunity to shape what people see and therefore shape people's first impressions of you. Why do we want to do this? Because really, when people go to look you up on a social media platform, and we'll cover that in a minute because they absolutely will go and look you up on a social media platform. They're going to make I guess, get a first impression of what you stand for as your individual brand. So a very overused quote now, I feel, from Jeff Bezos. A brand for a company is like a reputation for a person, but it is true. All of us have a brand, whether we like it or not. All of us have the opportunity to create our brand. And really, at the end of the day, we actually already have a brand, whether you're online or not. Because a brand for a person is really made up of things like what you do, how you dress, how you speak, how you hold yourself, what your job is, what extra things outside of work you're involved in, do you volunteer, do you study extra stuff, all of that sort of thing. All of those things make up your brand. So when you start to think about your own individual brand, you really need to start thinking about what am I known for? And this is really in particular relating to your roles, but also outside of your role. Really think about the extra skills and experience that you have that you can bring to your online profiles. So you need to think about what are my attributes and values? What am I passionate about? What advice do people come to me for? What need have I identified in my chosen field that I can address? Professionally, that is a really important one because increasingly there's a need to set yourself apart from the rest of the people out there doing the same thing as you. And if there is a particular niche area that you're working in or that you're developing skills in, here is the place to highlight that. So you really want to try and think about what am I known for? What are you known for, or what would you like to be known for if you're hoping to move into a different area, and why? So a little bit later on when we move into developing your LinkedIn headlines, these are the sorts of things that I want you to think about. What are you known for, what would you like to be known for, and why? Because that sort of stuff makes up your unique value proposition. Something that is only relevant to you, that only you have to offer. So I like to do this with my uni students. This was a few years ago, before Donald Trump was elected as President of the United States. I think it was during campaign time. Someone launched a website that asked people to describe Donald Trump in one word. So you can see there were over 18,700 words submitted by 234,000 people. I think it shows us the top 20 on this one. Can anyone have a guess of what the top one was? I mean, there's a lot that springs to mind, I know. But any ideas? Feel free to pull it out.
Harry?
Definitely features, but not the top.
Which?
Also features, yeah. Something similar, but not actually exactly that features, yeah. Anything else?
Powerful.
Sorry?
Powerful.
Powerful, I think that, yes, also features in the top 20. Actually, I ran this workshop, this presentation in a workshop format 2 days ago at Invercargill State High School. And it was the first time that someone ever got this right. A teacher, a deputy principal there guessed it. And I have done this a lot of times and no one has ever guessed the top word. So the top,
Press the bottom right. Just on the right.
There we go. President. Oh, you said it?
He said that.
Oh. Should have shouted it out. President. So that is just an example of someone who used social media so effectively to really place themselves into and shape themselves for a role that they didn't yet have, for a position. And also, I actually think he had no expectation that he would win the presidency. As I say to my uni students as well, it's also an epic reminder to apply for roles that you don't have enough experience to do, because there's a very strong chance that you may get audited. So he really, really effectively leveraged social media, and that's where the majority of his campaign was run, to get people on board to support him for the presidential elections, and it worked. He just was not afraid to get out there, speak exactly what he stood for. He really, really shaped his brand by using the social networks. Oh, sorry, there are some of the others you can have a bit of a laugh. I quite like the visual myself. Yeah, so most of the ones that you shouted out were there. So I guess all this talk about personal brand and why we need to have a personal brand is, I guess the other thing I will ask you right now, you've got to try and be honest in this question. Who of you here has ever stalked somebody online using social platforms? Look someone up. What do you call stalking? You know what I mean? Investigating.
Every time you never stop, check them out.
Exactly. That is my point, right? And the reason we ask that is, why isn't personal branding important? Because every time someone starts to work with you, is looking to hire you, wants to collaborate with you, the first thing they're going to do is Google you, or look you up on Facebook, or look you up on LinkedIn. It is just a reality these days. It doesn't matter whether we like it or not, it is going to happen. It happens everywhere now. That is the first thing that people go to. And while it's really important to have a presence there that is a real representation of who you are and what you have to offer, you need to make sure that you also do actually have something there. Because in this day and age, it's actually just as suspicious for people if you have nothing there. If they can't find you at all, it starts alarm bells ringing. Because that, unfortunately, is where we're at in the digital age. So what we're going to do is we're going to Google someone we may be able to relate to a little bit more than Mr. Trump. Some of you, I'm sure most of you will have heard of him. His name is Eddie Wu and he is a maths teacher. Anyone heard of Eddie Wu? Yep.
Just going to ask you a question. What's the view taken if you don't have a presence?
I think people question why. Have you got something to hide? Why aren't you on social media?
The education part of code of conduct kind of encourages you not to be very present.
Yeah.
So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I think that, I know that there's a lot of rules and regulations around connecting with students, but I think, unfortunately, that, and Queensland Education, the Department of Education in Queensland is the strictest out there. I run these programs around Australia. I also work for the Department of Education, and so I know the challenges around that. But I think it's moved beyond that, that yes, while that is, I think the concern there is that it's between teachers and students, you have to start thinking more about what it is for you rather than the teacher-student thing and within the classroom. It's more a professional tool for you guys now and for everyone out there. So you've got to think of it beyond, I think, the teacher and school realm and start to think about it as being part of a professional network. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. It's not very practical.
I know it's a very hard thing to overcome because, especially if you do work in the education system here with the Department of Education in Queensland, is particularly tricky. So,
But in saying that, my school put me through a leadership program several years ago, and the first thing they said is you need a LinkedIn profile, and they helped you put it together.
yeah.
They actually
So
encouraged it.
increasingly, I think, and also, from the point of view of some of the focus groups that I've done with teachers, in the state system, major state high schools now are finding it very difficult to recruit staff. There are not enough teachers out there. So,
They're actually advertising on LinkedIn.
so I work at Indooroopilly State High School running a government-run project by Trade and Investment Queensland. And he has started advertising roles on LinkedIn, and he gets more hits and applications from LinkedIn than he does from Smart Jobs. And he said he cannot get enough people to apply for roles through Smart Jobs. So people like that who are in a position of hiring, and for instance at Indooroopilly State High School next year they're employing 40 new roles. They've got 200 extra new kids going in next year, and there are 40 new roles they've created. So that is a lot of people to try and find in 1 year. So they are literally out there. That's a lot of social media stalking for them, and that's exactly what they do every time they get an application. Are they on LinkedIn? What can I find out about this person? What extra stuff can they offer our school community? So it's not just about your resume, and that's where socials come into it. It's a lot beyond just your resume. It's really being able to demonstrate all the extra things that you can bring to a school as an employee, but also as a colleague. So I think as this woman said here, every time someone new starts at her school, she looks them up.
The curriculum wants us to build digital systems as well.
Absolutely, it's all part of the digital technologies curriculum now. And that is a challenge in itself for a lot of teachers, because a lot of teachers aren't even, I have worked on a whole project around the digital technologies curriculum. And it's all, a lot of its focuses around creating a digital solution, which a lot of comes into play with things like social media and digital technologies. A lot of teachers don't even know what a lot of us in the community, but teachers who have to teach it aren't even 100% sure what a digital solution is. So it is very difficult. It's a difficult world to navigate when you're not used to it. But I was reading an article the other day that I think made a very good point, in that the longer you leave it, the harder it gets. The longer you're off it, everyone's starting to join all around you. You're coming in late to the show. So you've just got to take a leap of faith and get on there and just try. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about starting to build that presence. And as I said, I'm going to walk you through how to do that on LinkedIn if some of you are interested in getting on LinkedIn or starting to think about how you can use it more proactively. So we'll just have a quick look at Eddie. Anyone heard of Eddie Wu? He's a maths teacher. He has a YouTube channel called Mr. WooTube where he does maths tutorials. And he is also was recently awarded Australia's Local Hero Award. He's also just brought out a maths book. So obviously Eddie has a lot to post about. He's involved in a lot of things. But when you Google Eddie's name, you will see this. Google essentially loves social media. So if you are on social media, these are the things that are likely to come up in the first page of search results. So someone Googles your name. He's got YouTube there because he's really active on YouTube, so that's his first. The majority of the time, LinkedIn will come up first if you're on LinkedIn. Google absolutely loves LinkedIn. It ranks very highly. So if you have a LinkedIn account, someone Googles your name, in all likelihood, LinkedIn is the first search result that's going to come up. And again, that is why it is really important for you to have a good LinkedIn profile. So you'll see there YouTube, then he's actually got his own, managed to secure his own Wikipedia page. He's got Twitter, Facebook, another website that's purely his, LinkedIn. So all the big social media platforms are on there. That is what someone will find first. So that's, I guess, another thing to think about, is because a lot of people will have a Facebook account or they'll have a Twitter, they will have started a Twitter account, but they don't use it, they don't put anything on there, they haven't got a good bio, they've got a really dodgy photo from a party 6 years ago where they've cut out their friends. That sort of stuff is the stuff that you need to think about. So think about having good bios, good pictures, that sort of stuff, and we'll go through that in a little bit. I'll run you through the platforms really quickly and just give you a bit of an idea about the things that teachers and educators can do on these platforms if you are wanting to use these platforms. Obviously, all of these have the option to be public or private. I would suggest that you pick 1 or 2 platforms, make them public, and do them really well. There's nothing worse than finding people on 5 channels and none of them have got anything in them. You're better off just sticking with a couple, so you might want to do just LinkedIn for professional, keep your Facebook private, keep your Instagram private if you've got Instagram, or what you can do with Facebook is choose to post publicly. So if there is something that you're happy for people to see or it's something that you would like people to see, you can choose to post in a public way. So whether we like it or not, Facebook, certainly for younger people, Facebook they don't even use it anymore. They're on it, they don't use it. They use it for Messenger, maybe events, that's it. But I think it is still worth being on there. It still is the biggest social media platform used by the most number of people. So as you can see, 2.35 billion monthly active users. That is a lot of people in one space. So again, if you want to make it private, absolutely fine. Just make sure that you have a suitable photo, a suitable bio, because that stuff will still come up when someone searches you. So just think about the image that you have there and the information that you have on the side. The things that you can do, whether you have a private account or a public account, You can join teacher or educator groups. It's a great place for gathering resources. Follow or like organisations and institutions who may be doing things in the same kind of area as you. Obviously post public or private, and hear about events that are going on. When I started Be Social, Be Smart almost 5 years ago, we were trying to tap into the educator and teacher market. And at that point, 5 years ago, Facebook was where most teachers and educators were. So I think that's evolved a little bit now with LinkedIn. LinkedIn has doubled in size in that time. And I think it is growing there, but this is certainly a place where a lot of educators are and people are using it to gather information about other educational institutions or organisations or startups and things like that. You can see there, Eddie has put a photo up. He's been at a conference. So I was thinking about the things that you are involved in that adds to your skill set or your achievements that you can start to post about. Again, it doesn't have to be on Facebook, it can be on other platforms. But think about the things that really start to tell a story about who you are and what you're doing. He was on Koshi with his new book, so he's obviously, as we said, got a lot going on, so he has got lots to post about, but it is still, I'm sure a lot of you are going to a lot of events and attending a lot of things through school that you could probably post about. Is anyone here on Twitter? Yep, okay, yep. I'm just going to cover this really quickly. It's a smaller demographic, Twitter, because it is predominantly used in the States. Not a lot of people here are on Twitter or using it, but I will say if you do already have a profile, or if you are prepared to just make a profile, have a picture and a bio in there, it is a great place to keep up with current affairs and current trends in industries. It is heavily used by the education industry globally. So it is a really great source of information if you feel like you can get on there and scroll. It is also there is a lot of information on there, so you do need to be on there kind of scrolling every so often. I think that they say that the big corporations that use Twitter very actively post somewhere between 25 and 35 times a day. So because of that, you can imagine the amount of information that exists on there that you can tap into. So you can use Twitter to keep up to date on, sorry, it's a spelling mistake, I need to change it. On current industry news, follow companies, institutions, individuals, potential employers. Also a great place to follow hashtags. So if you're in a particular subject area or you're interested in getting into, there's a lot happening in the education, in the entrepreneurship and innovation space, great, so much information on Twitter about that sort of stuff. Follow the hashtags, student entrepreneurship, student innovation, school innovation. You can share links to interesting articles and resources related to your professional area without actually having to generate new content. So it's very easy to retweet things on Twitter. Instagram, anyone using Instagram? Not really? Okay. 1 billion monthly active users now. It is now the second largest platform behind Facebook. Obviously a lot of young people use Facebook, use Instagram. Most people do really have private profiles on Instagram, unless you're a big organisation. I think most people, and that's fairly acceptable. Unless you're really in a creative area, you know, and you would like to have some kind of a creative portfolio, or you're doing a lot behind the scenes, so you're doing a lot of events or things outside of school. It's a great behind the scenes tool, but it's probably something that you can keep private. Obviously great for reaching a younger demographic if that's what you're trying to tap into. Also great for edtech entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. Lots of startups are using it now effectively. And because it has grown so much since Facebook bought it, it is, most organisations are now on there. Increasingly I see a lot of schools on there that are just talking about what they're doing and behind the scenes stuff at schools. And schools have all sorts of different stuff on there. School sports pages, school rowing, school tennis, all individual pages for each of the things that exist within their school. So we'll move on to LinkedIn now. Please feel free to ask questions as we go through here, because I know that sometimes you do wonder a little bit about what to put in each area. We'll go through that, but feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and also we can do some Q&A at the end if we need. So why LinkedIn? Why should you be on LinkedIn? It's a great place to showcase achievements and potential. Your future boss is already there. Your current boss is already there too, but if for some reason you want to move roles, as we've just talked about, it's more than likely that the person who hires you is going to be on LinkedIn. Google loves LinkedIn, as we've talked about, so it will rank very highly if someone does do a Google search of your name. Great place to keep up to date on your target industry. A really, really fantastic place, the best place to make connections and start building a professional network. We'll talk a bit more about that once we get into it. And a great place to find potential partners and collaborators, even if you're not looking for a job. I think the perception a couple of years ago was really, oh, I don't need to be on LinkedIn unless I'm looking for a new job, which has definitely changed now. It is really a very useful professional tool now. 575 million users, and now the statistics say that 95% of employers use LinkedIn for recruitment. Most of that figure comes from the fact that people will look you up on LinkedIn. If they're looking to hire you, they will look at your LinkedIn profile. For instance, I know with the corporate grad programs now for universities, the big corporates are now, they get so many applications and things like this. I worked with someone who did a corporate grad program at a bank. She got 12,000 applications a year for 150 places. A lot of those students, the students that are coming through now, will only be able to apply for jobs and grad programs with their LinkedIn profile. That's how a lot of them are starting to do it. Resumes are gone. If you want to apply for this job, apply via LinkedIn. And as difficult as it is to sometimes jump into this, as educators, I'm sure that you know, there is such a big push on 21st century skills for students now. We are trying to prepare students for the future of work. We have to prepare ourselves as well. There is a chance before you finish your working career that there will be an opportunity or a need for you to do some kind of a side job. The gig economy is really, really increasing all the time. There is opportunity there for people to get additional jobs, and it may come down to the fact that really, in a lot of cases, you have the opportunity to do it, or you may need to do it. So we really need to keep up with what we're teaching kids these days, because soon they're going to become our competition. So this gentleman very kindly let me use his LinkedIn profile. He's the Deputy Principal at Victoria State High School. You can see here, I'm just using this as an example with sections. So underneath his name there is his title, his headline. Sorry, not his title. It's his headline. A lot of people do fall into the trap of just putting in their title there. Head of English, geography teacher, whatever it may be. This is a capped, you only have a certain amount of words here. It is your opportunity to tell people who you are and what you have to offer. Don't waste that section. That is the first thing that people see. You need to take advantage of that. Second most important thing is the about section on the right there, which is also referred to as your summary. What we're going to do in a little while is I'm going to talk you through constructing your summary and what you need to think about when you're thinking about writing it. This is a really tricky process. I had a group of teachers in a room the other day for 2 hours, and the majority of that 2 hours was taken by trying to write their headline and trying to write their summary. It can take time because you're really trying to be very succinct, but you just need to keep refining it. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time round. Have a go, keep going back in and thinking what you can improve on and what you can add, but it is really important because it is the opportunity for you to make that first impression. Then you go into your experience section where you add any of your career roles that you've done. I would suggest you probably go back at least 10 years here. But if you've worked for the same organisation for 10 years, you may want to drop back a bit further. Also, if you've worked for the Department of Education, for example, for 20 years but done 5 different roles in there, it will still only list your Queensland Department of Education as your employer. It will just list your roles underneath. So you can see there, he has worked for the Queensland Department of Education for 14 years, but he's done a number of different roles which sit underneath that. That's your opportunity to really demonstrate what you've done in each of those roles. We'll go through that in a little bit. A accomplishments and then interests. And then you've got skills and endorsements, education, the ability to give and receive recommendations. And also there's another section where you can talk about any volunteer work you've done. And I'm sure a lot of you have been involved in extracurricular stuff in a volunteer capacity within schools or education environments, and that's the place where you list that stuff out. So, my baby's gone. Where's she going? Appropriate image and a strong headline. No selfies, no party shots, no photos of you at a wedding that you've cut out your other half and decided to use that. It just needs to be a head and shoulders professional shot. If you go to a lot of conferences like this, often they will have a photographer there taking LinkedIn photos. If you ever come across that, make sure you take advantage of it because it's great to have a professional photograph. But if not, put something appropriate on, go and stand against a blank wall and get someone to take a photo of you. If it's not the world's best photo, which in that situation often it's not, I would strongly suggest that you put it in black and white. There are statistics to say that black and white photos, for some reason, get more hits on LinkedIn. If you don't have a photo on there, I think they say that engagement increases 27 times if you have a photo. So you must have a photo. It is the most important thing. The other thing also is thinking about your headline. So this is really your area of expertise and your unique value proposition. Feel free to take a photo of this slide as it comes up. I'll just wipe these off. These are examples. The top two are not related to education. They are just examples of really good headlines. The bottom one is one I was working on with a deputy principal the other day. So I'm aspiring events and sponsorship manager with a passion for festivals, concerts and live music. It tells you what they are hoping to do and the area in which they are hoping to do it. Public affairs executive, strategic, effective, influential. I get the word out about what's great about my company. So that is really, really good, that one, because it tells you what their role is, what they do, or what skills they have, and in really simple terms, what they do. So people know exactly what that person does. And then deputy principal, instructional leader, developing teachers and improving student outcomes via partnerships and innovation. So having something like that really beats having deputy principal at Philly State High School. Which, hands up, anyone done a headline on LinkedIn? It is a really hard thing to do. You will sit down for ages and go back and forth and try and cut words out and play around with it, but it's definitely worth doing. It is definitely worth trying to get as much into that sentence as possible. The next thing that we'll do is have a look at, has anyone got any questions about the headline? No? All good? Okay. Constructing your summary. So your summary needs to be probably around 3 to 5 paragraphs, ideally. First person only. Do not say Sally has worked in this field for a very long time. It makes you sound ridiculous, and probably, I reckon, at least 50% of people on LinkedIn do that. When you're writing your summary, I would like you to think about it as your career story that only you can tell. Your career story that only you can tell. Because that makes it unique to you. You need to stay away from generic terms. Passionate, goal-driven, globally oriented. None of that means anything to anyone who doesn't know you. So if someone's coming in to see what you are all about, if you fill it with vague, generic terms like that, it's not going to help anyone understand what you have to offer. So you're looking at 3 to 5 paragraphs. Just before I tell you how, I guess the most important things to put in that in those paragraphs, I'll just play this video. This was actually done by LinkedIn. I think it's quite funny. It's got it's done by actors, but it is all stuff that was said and written on LinkedIn. It gives you an example of all the vague statements and like how ridiculous you can sound if you actually incorporate a lot of that stuff into either your headline or your summary. You're able to write that one.
My goal is to revolutionize people's lives through art, technology, and entertainment.
Welcome to a window into the life of me.
Come inside my brand. I'm a director of nursing / master bodybuilder /
Simultaneously soft and hard.
I used to be a successful city trader earning a high six-figure income.
Reuben Jones has distinguished himself on many levels.
Ray Fisher knows how to make an impression. He's worn black since he was 14 years old, assisted La Chapelle while living in Paris, and hates flowers.
What makes Darren Hill so special? I rebuilt the homes of the survivors of an avalanche.
I run towards fires.
I'm not a boss.
Perhaps that's why I'm so good at it.
There's only one boss, and his name is Mr. Customer.
I'm a time-loathing adventurer and thrill seeker.
I'm a results-driven global operator.
I'm hardworking and articulate.
I'm not racist. You remember the kid at school who knew everyone? Knew all the latest trends, fashion, music, even knew how to talk to the girls. And that was me.
Apparently, I look like Idris Elba.
I'm also the world's best eyeliner maker.
I invented the 2-hour lunch break.
In this world, we're paid in 2 coins. One cash, one experience.
I don't believe in boundaries.
I don't go with flow. That's a fish.
I don't call meetings meetings, they're doings.
I still retain all my original parts.
I'm not some fatty fudge.
I'm a part-time bikini model.
Yeah, ignore the profile pic.
I'm inspired by the ocean.
I love the chaotic nature of technology.
Fusing a multicultural knowledge and global experience for a borderless, connected world.
Nothing gets me going like a good pitch. I aspire to engage, educate, and empower all humans towards their passions.
I also have an interest in theatrical dance.
Anyone can make money. It takes a special set of skills to make a difference.
My approach is human because people are human.
Send me a direct message.
I try marketing to achieve aggressive P&L results. I'd struggle to look my son in the eye if I didn't at least have a go.
Remember this. One day will be your last day on Earth.
I love making professional acquaintances. Reach out if you want to talk technology, business, or baseball.
If you're thinking of pushing the employee restart button,
Perhaps we can catch up for a coffee. I'm decaf.
Thank you and goodbye.
I'm keen as fucking mustard to hear from you.
So you'll see there, and with through working with groups, both students and educators, the temptation is really there. Driving students towards 21st century skills, providing innovative solutions in education. That doesn't mean someone who doesn't know what you're doing. So this is your opportunity to really explain what you're doing. You can incorporate those words into it, but you just need to be a little bit more detailed about your skills and experience and what you have to offer. So when you're thinking about constructing your summary, again, feel free to take a photo of this if you'd like. I would like you to think about what one thing would you like to say to a prospective employer or colleague or collaborator? What 2 significant achievements in your career would you like to highlight? What relevant experience can you share to demonstrate your ability to do your current role or a new role effectively? And what need have I identified in my chosen field and how am I addressing it or how can I address it? If you answer those things in 3 to 5 paragraphs, then you'll be really demonstrating your skills and abilities and what you have to offer within your professional life. So everyone got a pick of that? So just going back, this is again where you've got the opportunity to expand on each of the roles that you've done. Probably about one paragraph underneath each of these is sufficient. And again, try to think about the main things that you've delivered in those roles when looking at those things there. Accomplishments, honours and awards, organisations that you're a member of, or any publications that you've had, any things that you've written or produced, that goes under that section there. Interests is where the things that you follow come up. So all organisations now are pretty much on LinkedIn, all big businesses. There is an opportunity, if you don't want to, you can follow organisations. You can also follow individuals. If you don't want to actually reach out and connect with someone, you can just press the follow button and then all of their stuff will come up in your feed. So that's where those pop up, the organisations that you follow there. On that note, if you're in there and you're doing some research and you find people that you want to connect with, it will come up on your screen and it will say connect. Hit the connect button and it will say, do you wish to add a note? Always make sure that you add a note to someone that you're asking to connect with. Just give them some context around why you would like to connect. If you are on a device, however, on an iPad or an iPhone, or any other device, it will not give you the opportunity to add a note if you just hit connect. You need to go onto the three dots at the side of their profile. There's a drop-down menu and it will say personalise invite. So you hit that and then it will give you the opportunity to write a note. Just something to remember because it is different from desktop to device. Skills and endorsement, you're allowed to, I think you're able to put in 50 skills. You may think that you do not have 50 skills. Trust me, once you get in there, you will realise that you definitely have 50 skills. There's everything you can possibly imagine, from staff, you can see there, staff development, public speaking, teamwork, team collaboration, any kind of software stuff. Go in, it's a drop-down menu once you put in a first letter, so you will literally see them all drop down. I would recommend you putting at least 10 to 20 skills there. People then can endorse you for those skills and that pops up. As you'll see, there's skills and endorsements on the side. Education sections where you put any school or uni or TAFE or whatever it may be, and then licenses and certifications as well will go under that section. Once you have connected with someone, you are able to ask for a recommendation, or someone is able to ask you for a recommendation. So you simply go into their profile, on those three dots at the side again, it drops down, and it says ask for a recommendation. I always find it's really good just to give the people you're asking for a recommendation just a couple of words around what you'd really like them to say. People are busy. If they have to sit down and think about what they're going to write, just say, I'd really be grateful if you could write a few words about how I did this for you, or whatever it may be you're hoping. Yeah. Also, if you are looking to do recommendations, try and have recommendations that cover off your cross-section of skills. So don't get them all for one skill. Try and ask people who are relevant to different areas of your professional life around what they can recommend you for. So just to wrap up, what can we do with LinkedIn? Connect and build your network. I would probably connect on LinkedIn with maybe 20 people a week. So if you're on there and connecting, people will connect with you. Don't be nervous about connecting with people or asking people to connect. People don't mind, they really don't. The odd person might ignore your request, and that's absolutely fine, forget about it. But the majority of people will be interested in building their own network as well if you are relevant to them, which presumably if you're connecting with them you are. The only thing that people get funny about is selling. So if it looks like you're selling something, people are reluctant to connect. But really, if you think that it's, one person said to me in one of the workshops, but why would I bother? Why are these people worth connecting with? Because professional networks now are the essence of really developing partnerships, collaborations, and if you are going to be looking for any other roles, they really are so important now. You can request recommendations, as we've just talked about, join and contribute to groups, share or create relevant articles, research and follow companies or professionals in your field, find and apply for advertised jobs that may not apply to you, and continually improve your profile. So don't just do it and forget about it and don't go back into a month. Get the app on your phone. You don't have to turn on notifications, so it doesn't need to beam all the time. I don't even have notifications on, but just go in, have a bit of a scroll, see what people are doing, They will throw up suggestions about connections for you, but they'll also if you start to follow a few individuals and companies, then that sort of stuff will start coming up in your feed. It's a really great research tool as well. So I hope that's given you a few tips today. Please feel free to come and talk to me. I'll be over at lunch if you have any questions, or if you have any questions now, I'm more than happy to help. I'm obviously on LinkedIn, Sally Dwyer. Feel free to connect with me. If you have any questions as well, you can send me a message on there. As I said, we're running workshops in schools around all of this LinkedIn building and social media for professional brand building. So if you'd like to talk about any of that further too, I'd be happy to chat.